Right now at 5:30, the city's notorious violence problem has lasted generations. But lately, we've seen a lot of blame among the city's leaders.
And Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx is joining us now to discuss this. Thanks for being here. People here in the city say this violence has gone on far too long. You just heard the mayor and the police superintendent there saying police officers are arresting the bad guys. They say the courts aren't doing enough. Ms. Foxx, tell us what your reply to that is.
Well, first and foremost, we saw a horrific level of violence this past weekend. 100 people shot, 13 of which are children. And so we need to be working collectively and collaboratively to address the violence in our communities. And it is frustrating that with the urgency of the matter, that we're having deflection and blame as opposed to looking holistically. Our office only gets involved once an arrest is made. And one of the problems that we're contending with is that a lot of these shooters have not yet been arrested. But when they are arrested and they are charged, the criminal justice system kicks in and people are prosecuted and held accountable. We have to work together with community, the people who are on our streets, who are identifying folks, who are stepping up to be witnesses, to make sure that we're available to have them come into court because we are in a crisis. And it is disappointing that rather than talking collectively and collaboratively about solutions, that this is the rhetoric that we continue to get from the superintendent.
So it sounds like what you're saying is they're not arresting the shooters. And so they're finger pointing and then you're finger pointing back.
Well, no, I don't want to finger point at all, Micah. What I want to say is that we have a role to play in the justice system where prosecution comes in after an arrest. And the concerns that they've made about bond court is one of the reasons we've been working on bond reform, is that we don't want people who are dangerous, who are able to access cash, to be able to pay an amount of money to get out and be in the community. And so there's an ecosystem that we work in. And recognizing that we all work together and we have a role to play, it doesn't aid in finger pointing. What I'm saying is in doing our role, we want to support the police in getting people who are pulling triggers off the street so that we can prosecute them and hold them accountable.
You talked about that bail reform. In 2017, the circuit court instituted that based on the idea that a defendant shouldn't get punished ahead of a conviction if it ultimately goes that way. How do you think that has figured into all of this, and do you think it needs further changes?
Well, I think I have to remind people that that reform came in 2017 after 2016, which was a horrifically violent year as well. We saw over 760 homicides in the city of Chicago. And violent crime, murders and shootings went down in 2017. They went down even further in 2018. They went down even further in 2019. So we have 3 years of history related to this initiative where we saw a reduction in violent crime. And again, why we have to, when we're having this conversation around solving for this violence we're seeing now, not have red herrings or distractions, and actually work together on all of it. Looking at bail, making sure that we have the right people in our jails who shouldn't be able to post bond is something we have to continually look at. But we also have to have an honest conversation about where bond reform has been. It didn't start with David Brown's arrival in Chicago. This is something that had been working on since 2017.
It's been actually something that the city has been working on for decades, the violence in the city. No one seems to be able to come up with a solution, and I'm not asking you to do that today, but do you think it would behoove the city and the leaders to get together and sit down? You sitting down with the mayor, you sitting down with the superintendent. Is that possible? I know you say the community getting together to work on this could be working towards a solution at least.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what's also frustrating. We have been meeting with the city and the superintendent and the mayor, myself, the public defender, Sheriff Dart, Chief Judge Evans, and President Preckwinkle. We've met at least 2 times in the course of the last couple of months as we knew that the summer months were approaching and wanted to work collectively and collaboratively. And listen, I understand the superintendent's frustration. He's sending his men and women out there in the line of fire to help communities and to see the level of just pain and death. But we also have to be honest about working together and with the community. But we've been doing that, and we will continue to do that because we recognize we need the superintendent and the Chicago Police Department to be successful, to be good partners, to keep our communities safe.
When you talk about working collectively and collaboratively, the witnesses, the victims, and the survivors are all the ones who really weigh the scales here. When we talk about working together with the community, what are the real effective ways to do that, in your opinion?
First, assuring people that we're available to them. I've been having a series of calls with mothers of children who have been victims of homicide over the last several years and feeling as though, depending on where they lived, the level of responsiveness from the court system or for law enforcement differed. It means being visible in times where there isn't trouble, when you're not just responding. So the community policing initiatives that have been instituted, as well as the community prosecution initiatives that we have. People have to trust and believe that there's legitimacy in the system to, as the superintendent said, they don't want to go out and get their own level of street justice. And so that means, being honest about what our challenges have been in the past related to law enforcement and showing up for community, again, not just after the crime tape is being put up or the chalk outline is drawn. We have to be there before that.
Let's talk about the guns. The guns are a big source of this violence. It looks like police are taking more than 6,000 guns off the street so far this year. But all too often, those people, the guns are gone, but the people are right back on the streets, and they find guns elsewhere. How do we stop that? I know the president's coming to town. Mayor Lightfoot said she wants to speak with him. Could that, on the federal level help that? Or how can we get these guns off for good?
Absolutely. We need all the help that we can get. And the reality is that Chicago has an overproliferation of guns, many of which come from other states, many of which are bought by straw purchasers. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearm, they have a role to play here. They know who these gun dealers are that are engaging in these bad practices, and we need to stop the flow. And so it's an all hands on deck initiative that we have to have here, from law enforcement on the front lines to the court system to our federal partners, recognizing that we need to have a full-throated assault on these weapons. It's unconscionable that we have as many weapons as we have. I also want to say that in the last 4 years, we have had more gun prosecutions for possession cases than we had under my predecessor, and the cases have been stronger, with an approval rating of 94%. And that's because police have been bringing us better cases as a result of the collaborations that we've had in the past.
You're going to give Superintendent Brown a call today?
I spoke to Superintendent Brown last week, and again, he's come into the city. He's not from here. And came in the middle of a pandemic and came in the middle of civil unrest. And so I certainly understand his frustration. But as someone who, was in the neighborhoods the other day in Inglewood talking to residents, they don't want finger pointing, they want answers. And so I certainly, am committed to working with the superintendent and with the mayor to get answers to the people who live there, because that's what they deserve.
Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx, be safe, be well.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now an update on a story WGN